Right. Well, good day, Andy. Thank you for making time to be with us and with the viewers, those that are going to listen in and gain from your extremely sort of, I suppose, well-achieved and deep background. For those who are tuning in now and listening to us, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Andy Ford, the founder of Ford Doonan Air Conditioning Group here in Western Australia, and most recently the founder of XS Fitness, which I'm very excited about and would like to learn more about. Just before we ask Andy to sort of jump into it, I just want to share with you that Ford Doonan Air Conditioning Group is Western Australia's largest specialist air conditioning group. Andy started in 1985, the age of 19, which is quite extraordinary that you've stuck at it for all these years and turned it into such a wonderful success. You didn't do it alone. You started it with Kyle Doonan, who is your business partner to this day, I believe, which in itself is a massive achievement for those of us who have been in business with people. Often it's a difficult road to travel. So there's lots to be learned from your experience there. The group Ford Doonan was the winner of WA Telstra Small Business Awards in 1994, 1997, 2001, and the BRW Fastest 100 Growing Companies in Australia. And the list of accolades and achievements just went on and on and on. So I thought I'd cut it off there. Suffice to say that you've done incredibly well, Andy. You've achieved amazing things. And as one of our sort of leading WA entrepreneurs, there's so much that you can share with either those that are coming in and starting up their businesses, that are looking to grow, trying to overcome problems, etc. So thank you for making the time. So to get into it, Andy, can I ask you what sort of possessed you at the age of 19 to start your own business?
Very good question. I was never one that really liked being told what to do, Doug. So I think that was the impetus for it. So I left school at year 10, not because I wasn't doing well at school. I was actually doing very well, but both my older brothers had done trades, and I think that influenced my decision to go into a trade as well. So I did a 4-year apprenticeship, and at 19, my then-to-be business partner, Kyle Doonan, arrived as the new tradesman for me in my final year of my apprenticeship, and we got on really well, and we concocted a very ill-conceived plan, I think it would be fair to say, of how to get into business. Naivety is beautiful at 19. So it was mainly just an impetus. We just want to go and do something for ourselves, not be told what to do. That a little bit of, I don't know, not arrogance that entrepreneurs have, that, I don't know, tendency to just go and want to do it yourself.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. You know, it's interesting that a study was done at some universities on males that were due to graduate. And when they were asked what they're going to do when they leave university, 68% of them said they want to start their own businesses. And the key reason was because they didn't want to work for anybody else. So clearly you fell into that category.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, you also referred to a half-concocted plan. At least you had a plan. You know,
we did.
You formed a plan. And how important has planning been to you as an entrepreneur through the years?
I think it's been paramount, Doug. And myself and Kyle, even when we were very, very small and we were still very new to the industry, what we did, we went over to the east coast of Australia every year to meet with a large air conditioning company over there, whom of course weren't competitors, and were quite open in sharing what they do in their businesses. So we gleaned a lot of information very early, and we were just always students of just wanting to get information, and unofficial mentors helped us so much over the years too, Doug. So it's just about always thinking laterally. We've always done a lot of planning we sit down together at brainstorming sessions, and we're just always trying to think, if everyone's going left, how do we go right, and how do we do it better than anybody else?
All right. So, you know, all credit to you guys in that regard. For some of the people out there, they'll know that I've done a master's level thesis in family-owned businesses for my sins in family-owned business. So I spew forth some statistics from time to time. And one of the key statistics is that 75% of privately owned family-owned businesses do not have a formal documented strategic plan. So from personal experience of advising companies for many, many years and having run some myself, if you don't have a plan, you don't have a clear way forward. So all credit to you again for putting together those rudimentary plans and to getting into that discipline and trying to forge a clear way forward.
It's just so critical. And I can reiterate what you just said, Doug. I do a little bit of consulting to other small businesses, which is more of my retirement sort of plan than it is right now. I'm quite time poor. But the same thing becomes so evident to me as well, is that people just don't have a plan. They just don't, budget. They don't get enough information on what is the plan. And there's a famous saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I think that's just so true.
100%, absolutely. So in your early days, Andy, I think it's well written that about 80% of startups fail within the first 5 years. And they talk about that valley of death, which is strewn with early stage startups. What were the key challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
So the key challenges, I think, were our lack of experience. I remember at one stage, Doug, when we moved the business from sort of doing service-only work, because we were both service technicians by trade, we quickly realised that there was more money to be had in the sales and installation than purely selling labour and time, because there's only so many hours in the day. So once we got a taste of that, we sort of said, okay, this is where, and the business largely not changed direction, but certainly morphed more into that space. But what was going against us was our age, is that when we're selling air conditioners, which is quite expensive, people, obviously want to trust the contractor they're engaging, and we just look too young. So Kyle and myself both grew beards to try to make ourselves look older. And of course, it's the opposite now. We're trying to make ourselves look younger. So that was one of our challenges. And we didn't have the experience, but we also didn't have the overheads that typically one has personally when they start a business, maybe at age, in their late 20s, 30s, 40s. We didn't have a mortgage, so we could survive on very little income as the business sort of grew very slowly. So that was both a benefit and a hindrance being young. But so really it was just learning business quickly. And as we all know, when you're burning your own money, you learn things pretty quickly with only one lesson normally.
Yep, absolutely. And therein is a very key message as well, and that is, startups and early stage privately owned businesses, one of the key issues invariably is cash flow and the availability of capital to do what they need to do. And importantly, profit doesn't equal cash flow. They're two separate things. And when the free cash flow, the cash in bank runs out, often it comes as a surprise to the business owner, but that's when basically things hit the wall. So vitally important to manage that money. Also important to know how to access money. If you're running a good business and you have a lot of potential, there are those that may be willing to chip in and support you financially, but you need to know how to do that, and often advice does help. Moving forward, moving forward, I assume the business is doing extremely well. It's very robust. We see it on TV all the time, and we see your vehicles all over town and doing installations and the like. I'm sure it's not without headaches. But what's the longer term plan for Ford Doonan?
We're both getting on now, so we're both sort of in our mid-50s. So we've both had this talk quite often, is that we both believe we got sort of 5 to 8 years of burn and energy left in us. Post that, our ideal aspiration would be that we retain maybe 30% of the business each, and we bring in new energy and new partners who then run the business day to day, and we take a more strategic role in the sort of like chairman type role and help when we need to help. One of the key things we did quite early, Doug, was we franchised our business. So that allowed us to grow a lot quicker than what we could have possibly grown under a company store model. And the headaches of all the managers that work for you directly and all those stores, staff, is still your problem. But obviously with a franchise system, a lot less responsibility day to day relies on us. And we've got like 10 franchises at the moment, and they're just their own little businesses, driving hard, running a lot more efficiently than a big company store structure can too. So that was part of our very planned strategy, and it's also going to serve us well, we believe, as we sort of move into semi-retirement, that these are all autonomous, self-run stores.
Okay, so you want to maintain an interest, but there's clearly a succession plan afoot. So
absolutely,
you've got some succession planning on the go. You clearly know, and sure you know that succession planning takes time and planning to get the right people on board and to start to share your, what I call tacit knowledge that you can only learn on the job over many years. You have to now start to impart that on the new incumbents and get them ready, I suppose. And
Absolutely.
be there to mentor them. So
yes, mentor them, yeah. And we've got a great little leadership team now, but we're probably still missing one or two of those key people. So what we do now with our recruiting or promoting from within, which either of them, we're looking for those rising stars, as we call them, who are young and have got that key elements that we believe that potentially you need to run a part of the business. We're also considering whether we break the remaining of the company store. About 40% of the group's revenue still comes from the two company store operations. So we're still the largest of the stores. But within that, we've got service department, we've got commercial department. So the other way of our idea of the extra strategy is to sort of break those away and have owner operators of those particular divisions, say, with 30% equity each. And therefore, we then also protect the business should one division not perform or, heaven forbid, go down. It doesn't take the whole ship with it. So we're also thinking very structurally and strategy like that.
Yeah, no, well, that's very smart. We would refer to that as business model generation, where you throw out your whole business model, and typically there's between 9 and 11 components to a business model. You know, who's your target market? What's your competitive advantage, differentiation, revenue lines, product, what business are we in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you then seek, as you're doing, to innovate within that business model, make it more efficient, try and compete differently, try and move down product lines, try to push product into different markets, etc. So it sounds as though you're well down that path already, which is great. And I make that point because I think a lot of the people that will be listening today and through experience are not really across the concept of business model and all the moving parts that actually do exist within a business model. And when you step through the exercise and you set it all out on the whiteboard, it's quite an aha type moment. And it does really open up conversation and lead to really positive outcomes. So great to hear you doing that. If we step off the air conditioning business, tell us a bit about Excess Fitness.
Yes, well, I never thought I'd own a gym, Doug, truth be known, because most of them aren't very sort of profitable. But this is quite unique because I was a member of this particular gym for 3 years, and then it was on the market. The guy owner was selling it, and I had a look at it 1 year, did a lot of due diligence. Wasn't for me. And things didn't join up. It just didn't come together. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to push this. 12 months went past. I looked at it again, but this time things did fall into place. So only reason I really bought it was because I knew it was a nice little boutique gym. I knew how it operated because I was a member there for so long, and my passion is sort of bodybuilding and that sort of thing. So I call it my hobby business, Doug, and I really enjoy it. It was the first 12 months was a lot of work because I put so many systems on, and possibly a mistake I made was I probably put too many big business systems into a micro business in effect, and sort of burdened it with that. But the theory of that was, if I ever decide to expand that in either opening new gyms or acquiring underperforming ones and create franchises or company ones, is that the structure is there, like procedure manuals and that sort of thing. And the safety systems, where I just developed it, and we made a lot of changes. As a member of the gym, you know what you like and what you don't like. And I'm pretty sure I speak for the other members. So there's so many changes I implemented, but that 12 months now has passed. It's running completely under management. All I really do is oversee it now and pay some bills.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we wish you luck with that one.
Yeah, thank you.
Pop in there sometime and have a little bit of a workout. Andy, you clearly have been extremely successful. I'm sure it's not been without sort of some bumps and bruises along the way. But can I ask you to share with our audience, what do you think the secret to your success has been? And what would your advice to any young startup, early stage entrepreneur be?
So my advice, I'm always doing the one with the rose-coloured glasses on, Doug. So we did a lot of personality profiling of our management team. It was really interesting seeing all the strengths and weaknesses of each of us. And definitely I'm sort of the blue sky thinker. I'm always thinking laterally and what's going to be next. I'm never just satisfied with the way the business is, which is frustrating at times to the management team, but I've always got another idea or another product line I want to bring in and implement into our structure, because we've just got so many ones. Like we've just got into solar in the last sort of 12 months as well, which is a very logical bolt on to air conditioning. So simple answer to your question is don't accept the status quo. Always be thinking about what's next and look 5 years, 10 years down the track. One exercise we did very recently, Doug, was we sat down with our sales team and we said, if you were starting a air conditioning company today, what would it look like? And we got them to write them down. So what that allowed us to do was that it gave us a snapshot of what the younger generation are thinking and how sort of cumbersome we've become in the modern world, and how we don't want to become a dinosaur. We have to be more dynamic. So that allows us to get that vision. Okay, what do we have to become within a few years' time to remain relevant?
Yeah, no, very well put. Thanks, Andy. Yeah, I think if you don't have what I would call strategic insight into your environment and understand the intricacies of your business environment, the economy within which you're working and existing, you can't possibly have well-informed foresight and shine your headlights far into the future and start to plan constructively with a level of accuracy into the future. And I do remember reading some time ago that the best CEO business owners in the world have got extremely good foresight into the future, and they can plan accordingly. So it's all about planning. It's all about being innovative. It's all about not being happy with the status quo. And changes around us all the time. You know, we only have to look at what this last year has been like. We have a lot of change. A point that I would just like to add to what you've said there is that when companies are planning and building their strategic plans, just keep in mind the term strategic flexibility. Don't plan yourself into a corner which becomes your downfall. Particularly in a rapidly changing environment. Don't go now and extend yourself financially to buy all kinds of equipment that's going to sink you if your market moves away from you, as an example. Okay, so think about strategic flexibility. And Andy, now we live in this current COVID world. In the last few minutes we have, how are you viewing things at the moment? What's the outlook for you? What do you think a run up to the US elections and post-elections world looks like? How are you feeling as a business owner, entrepreneur?
I'm feeling lucky while I'm in WA, Doug. That's what I'm feeling. I think we're very much, I think WA is ticking to a different economic clock to the rest of Australia, and to any West Australian listeners. We're fed a lot of media based off the East Coast. So the news that they're feeding us isn't always relevant to WA. So that's the first thing I'd like to add. Look, to be honest, I'm really quite confident. There's a building boom right now going crazy in the home building space, which we're heavily exposed to. And that could create up to 20-25% growth for us this year. So the next 12 months, 18 months, we're really confident. I think the housing industry will take a bit of a sharp nose dive after all the government incentives are finished. But nevertheless, we'll worry about that to a degree when we get to it. But I'm quite positive, and because we're always looking for other opportunities and not just relying on air conditioning, if something does go quiet, there's so many other areas we can focus on. So generally speaking, I'm really positive about the future.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. And if I can ask you to stick your neck out a little bit, are we going to have a Biden presidency or are we going to have a Trump presidency?
Geez, that's a good one. Look, I'm not a real student of US politics. I'll go with Trump, to be honest. I think he could still pull this off, and I know his odds are narrowing when I see the bookies bets on him. So I think Trump will do this.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to close the doors and go and get under my duvet now, I think. And wait for December to come.
Look, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump necessarily. I think he's a bit of a fool at times. But also a lot of what his policies are, I don't disagree with either. It's just the guy delivering them's not always the right. But I think some of his intentions are right. At least he's got some guts to stand up to some other foreign governments, let's just say.
Yes. But it's going to be an interesting time, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
I certainly hope we're going to have a peaceful period over that time, and we're going to come out with a peaceful sort of post-US, post-world, I suppose, environment. So, Andy, those are the questions I want to ask you. Are there any sort of final closing nuggets that you would like to share with entrepreneurs? If you were to be doing it all over again today, what would you be focusing on? Just those few takeaways.
Sure. So there's probably a few things that have served me very well, and I'd suggest will serve others well too. And we touched on it earlier in our conversation, Doug, is that retaining profits in the company. I see so many companies with paper profits, as you mentioned, that isn't cash in the bank, and cash is king, is when the company does start making some money, resist the temptation to take it out as dividends and buy a new house, car, boat, whatever. Just leave that money in there as much as you can, because retained profits fuel future profit. It gives you all those ability to explore those other opportunities. So that'd be my first tip. And my second tip, again, we touched on it before about planning, is don't get caught working in your business all the time. Work on your business and devote some of your week to working on your business. We can do that planning that we both agree is so important. And I see the trap of so many people just working in it. Oh, it saves me money. I don't need to hire that extra person. It may save you money, but it's going to cost you more in the long run.
Great points. I'll just throw in a 20-second advertorial there. I've had so many people say to me, we're so lucky to have found you and to have found your group that can help us with our strategy and mentor us and coach us. Well, to those listening, it's not hard to find me. Just look at our website, and my number's there. Pick up the phone, drop me an email. Because independent, impartial advice that will possibly sometimes tell you what you don't want to hear, but set you on the right track is extremely important. Andy, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for your time, and it's lovely to see you again. And hope you have a wonderful week. And on behalf of all of the listeners, thank you for sharing with us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Doug. You too.
Have a good day. Cheers.
Okay, bye for now.